Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the core ideas from one of the most talked about books of the last decade, Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens. And really, it all boils down to one massive, almost unbelievable question.
No, seriously, just think about that for a second. For millions of years, we were just another animal, kind of minding our own business in a corner of Africa. We weren't the strongest, or the fastest, or the biggest, not by a long shot. So how did we end up, well, here? Okay, let's get into it.
To even start to tackle that question, we have to go way, way back. You know, the way Sapiens frames it is like a huge detective story, where we're searching for the one clue that explains our absolutely unlikely rise to the top.
Right. So this is our starting point. We weren't special. For most of our history, we were just as likely to be someone's lunch as we were to be the predator. Other human species, like the Neanderthals, were actually physically stronger. So what was our secret weapon? Harari argues it wasn't just one thing, but a whole series of dramatic transformations. He breaks our entire journey down into 4 massive, game-changing revolutions. And each one completely rewrote the rules, not just for our species, but for the entire planet. So here it is. This is basically the roadmap for our story. And it all kicked off around 70,000 years ago, with a change that happened not in our muscles, but inside our heads. So, about 70,000 years ago, our brains got a major upgrade. We developed a kind of language that wasn't just for, shouting, "Watch out, a lion!" We could suddenly talk about things that weren't even real, spirits, legends, myths. And that let us cooperate in huge numbers, way beyond a small family group.
Next up was the agricultural revolution. And this is where it gets interesting, because we usually think of this as a great leap forward for humanity, right? Well, Harari argues that while farming created more food for the whole group, life for the average individual probably got worse. Think harder work, a much less varied diet, and the birth of social inequality.
So with all these societies getting bigger and bigger, we needed some new glue to hold them together. This is where universal ideas came in. I mean, think about it. Money, empires, and religions are just concepts, but they're concepts that allow total strangers, people from completely different places, to trust each other and work together on a massive scale. And then finally, just 500 years ago, we admitted something huge, that we didn't have all the answers. This embrace of ignorance is what fueled the scientific revolution. It unlocked incredible power through technology, and when you pair that with capitalism, well, you get the world we live in today. Okay, so we've seen the revolutions, but there's a common thread, a secret ingredient, running through all of them. Harari argues that sapiens have this one unique, almost magical ability that made everything else possible. This right here. This is the core idea of the entire book. It's the secret sauce.
So what on earth is a shared fiction? It's pretty simple, actually. It's something that isn't a physical reality, like a tree or a river. It's a story we all agree to believe in. And by believing in it together, we make it real. We make it powerful.
Okay, take money. A dollar bill is literally just a piece of paper. It has no real value. But because we all believe it has value, it does. Same with a company. It isn't a building or a person, it's a legal idea we all accept. Nations, laws, gods, these are the powerful, invisible stories that organize our entire world. This is our superpower.
But, this incredible story of progress, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. The book constantly asks us to stop and consider the real cost of our dominance.
And here's a crucial point, maybe the most challenging one. What is good for the collective, for the nation, for the economy, for the species as a whole, is not always good for the individual living through it. We saw it with those first farmers, and Harari says we see that pattern again and again. Progress is not the same thing as happiness.
Now, of course, any huge, ambitious book like Sapiens is gonna have its fans and its critics. On one hand, it's praised for being just incredibly clear, super engaging, and for connecting these huge ideas across different fields.
But on the other hand, some historians say it paints with too broad a brush, that it oversimplifies really complex events, and sometimes speculates where the evidence is a little thin. So, after this incredible journey from an unremarkable ape to the master of the planet, the book leaves us standing on a precipice, really just looking out into a totally unknown future.
According to Harari, our world today is pretty much dominated by the interplay of these three forces. Science is how we get power, and capitalism and technology give us the motivation and the tools to use that power, pushing everything forward at a speed that's just dizzying.
And this is the part that is truly mind-blowing. For all of history, we've been bound by the rules of biology. But now, for the first time ever, we're starting to actually rewrite those rules. We are on the verge of upgrading Homo sapiens into something else.
And so, the book ends not with an answer, but with a question. For all of us, after 70,000 years, we've gained godlike powers of creation and destruction. The only question left now is, what do we want to become?